Yo, welcome back to another video, and today we'll be watching why the US is dropping billions of mutant flies from the sky. Yeah, not sure why they're doing that. Didn't know they were doing that. So let's see what's up.
Right now, 100 million radiation-blasted, flesh-eating flies are raining down over the jungles of Panama to commit a
Oh,
genocide that can never end. Their tiny bodies are rebuilding a wall of flesh that protects an entire continent.
why? Why are they just doing that? Wait, when did this video come out? First of all, June 3rd. That was yesterday. Oh, shout out my Panamanians. Um, why are they trying to pack you up?
This is one of humanity's most successful wars, going on for over 50 years now, fought from Central America to the deserts of Libya.
Damn.
Okay, so
Question: how are you supposed to stop him? Because from what I understand is you just gave uh flies mutant abilities. One, why would you do that? Two, how do I get? Do they get like powers? Do they get like extra like power ups?
what's going on? The unbeatable flesh-eating fly. We need to talk about one of the most terrifying parasites on Earth for a moment. Don't worry, we won't make it too gross. If you want to skip this part, jump to the next chapter.
Nah.
Cochleomya hominivorans, which literally
Huh.
means the man-eater. The New World screwworm fly at home in the Americas. Each of these metallic blue-green flies with bright red eyes that exist in nature is here because it's feasted on the flesh of a warm-blooded animal. Cochleomya can detect wounds and smell blood across vast distances. If a human, a deer, or a squirrel has the tiniest scratch, female screwworm
So you're telling me well, they're like blood Rottweilers. They can just smell blood. They can. Jesus. All
flies will
right.
try to lay eggs in the wound. When they hatch, the worms start eating healthy flesh with sharp mandibles, causing horrible wounds, attracting even more flies. In serious cases, the animal will die, or at least be severely weakened. Cochleomya doesn't add anything positive to the world and is a natural enemy of ours. For most of history, this parasite was simply a horrifying fact of life in the Americas. And then, we accidentally created a paradise for them. As farmers introduced millions and millions of cows to the vast expanses of the southern US, screwworms became a catastrophic problem and a source of endless suffering for our defenseless cattle. One outbreak might wipe out herds and lead to cruel, lingering deaths for countless animals in the wild.
Why not just get a bug zapper? Uh, unless they are so advanced that not even a bug zapper can take them out. Why? Why are certain animals just alive?
Traditional pesticides were useless against cochleomya because you
Jesus.
couldn't poison something that lived inside a living animal's flesh. You couldn't prevent animals from getting injured or flies from finding wounds. The situation seemed hopeless, and cochleomya was winning. Ranchers had to spend countless hours examining their herds, treating wounds, trying to protect newborns, watching helplessly as their animals suffered. And then two scientists in the 1950s had an idea that was too wild to be taken seriously at first. What if we kind of nuke the screwworms? Radioactive parasite factories. Screwworm flies have a major weakness. Female cochleomya can lay up to 400 eggs multiple times. But they only mate a single time.
Bruh, I just realized that some of these will literally eat you from the inside out. Got that. Bruh, this is why I don't like bugs. Oh my god, what do you mean it's gonna eat you from the inside out? Damn, that's what people thought spiders did every time you go to sleep. God,
before they die at the ripe old age of 3 weeks. So,
type.
what if we could somehow disrupt the mating process? What if we could flood the environment with sterile male flies? The females would waste their one and only chance at reproduction on males that couldn't produce offspring.
Why wouldn't they just find another bug? You feel me? So you're telling me this? They get busted in. They only have a chance to get busted in one time. As soon as the other fly just lets one rip, they're cooked. What do you? All right. I guess that
An
we
entire
have to have some
species could
weakness.
theoretically mate itself out of existence. But how do you sterilize millions of flies without killing them or making them too weak to compete for mates? Well, it turned out the timing to do this was kind of perfect. Scientists studying the effects of radiation had discovered that specific doses could damage reproductive cells while leaving the rest of an organism intact. So all we needed to do was figure out how high this dose was for Cochleomya, breed millions of flies, irradiate them, and release them over thousands of square kilometers. Imagine explaining this idea to someone in 1950. Imagine the scale of the damage and the suffering that Cochleomya caused for people to say, okay, sure, let's try this, why not? To prove this could work, scientists
I don't know. This sounds like a great movie. I ain't gonna lie. It sound, this sounds like a Doctor Animal type, a Doctor Animal type invention trying to make a mutant flies. So you're telling me they don't have any natural predators at all? They're not like an anteater, a mongoose, uh, honey badger. There's nothing that can stop this fly. How does it have? How is busting a nut its only weakness? As soon as you stop from busting a nut, it just it's just over. Or as soon as a nut gets busted by the other person, or they just feel dingling, they only have like a week to live. That's their only weakness. They don't got ain't no frog that's gonna eat them. All right.
built a screwworm paradise in Florida and shipped millions of flies to the remote island of Curacao. Long trays were filled with ground beef and horse meat, animal blood, milk, and eggs. Thousands were bred, irradiated, and released into the wild in regular intervals. As the weeks and
I get it. Don't get me wrong. I understand they're a developing third world country, but just using them as a test ground for radioactive bugs, that's nasty work.
months passed, more and more of the Cochleomya on the island were infertile and mated with regular ones. First slowly, and then suddenly, they were no more.
Damn.
Completely eradicated. It was time to think much bigger. Over the next few decades, a war was declared and professional worm factories established to breed them by the billions. A single plant in Texas alone needed 70 tons of meat and 12,000 gallons
Yeah.
of blood to breed 150 million flies per week. The disgusting mix had to be kept warm because they had to believe they were inside a living animal. This lovely process made the insects smell so bad that airlines initially refused to transport them. Their transport boxes had to be sprayed with cologne just to get them on planes. Bit by bit,
Yeah, I was just thinking. I'm like, bro, if the regular whatever these bugs are called didn't have any weaknesses, didn't have any, what I'm saying, predators that can hunt them, right? What's gonna stop these bugs from when they like evolve? They may be artificially radioactively made, but they're gonna evolve into something, and they're still gonna need to eat. So it's just good that they're not laying eggs in. You know what I'm saying? Things anymore. So it's kind of like, you feel me? Like, you get where I'm going? It's like these were already top five bug, for what I understand, and maybe top five predator on Earth, and you just gave them radioactive powers.
In a slow-moving wave of biological warfare, the program eradicated screwworms. First from Florida, then across
Damn.
Texas, through Mexico and into Central America. Every step required billions of sterile flies, massive coordination, and unwavering dedication from thousands of workers. It was an incredible victory of humanity over the horrors of nature. In
Cool.
1988, the war suddenly became global, and for the first time ever, screwworms escaped to Africa. The
Oh,
stakes were astronomical. If not stopped immediately, flesh-eating Cochleomya could move down the Nile Valley, around the North African coast, and conquer regions where medical care was scarce or non-existent. The potential suffering was incalculable. To stop this invasion,
damn. These bugs are actually moving militant. They're seeing that, oh, they're trying to get rid of us. All right, boom, let's move here. Let's go here, here, here. Huh. Bro, that's crazy. It's like the crocodiles that can lure people in by pretending to drown. It's like, why do bugs just know? Why do animals how are animals just able to figure out these tactics? How do they know where to go? Because, mind you, the lower hemisphere, they can win up. Like, I mean, they did go to Florida, but they can win like any other way. Why straight to Africa? Why not
a
like
Herculean operation
why not Australia? Australia has a whole bunch of I'm saying random animals.
was triggered immediately. Hundreds of millions of sterile flies were flown in. Ground teams inspected millions of animals for wounds. Communication campaigns explained to locals why planes were dropping boxes full of millions of flesh-eating American flies. But it worked. In just 4 months, the invasion was stopped. But
Dang.
Cochleomya still held a firm grip over the Amazon rainforest and much of South America. An area too large, politically complicated and expensive to expand the war further. So a deal was made with Panama.
No cap. What I would do is I would send a small battalion first. Like I'll go, you go center, and then you go for the four corners of the Amazon rainforest. You get the flies to, what I'm saying, trap them inside. I'm saying, get freaky and end it.
The narrowest part of the continent. The US and Mexico would pay for a wall of flesh in the small country. It would prevent any screwworms from reaching the north ever again. Today, deep in Panama, a nuclear worm factory runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Damn.
producing an endless stream of sterile flies. The technology has come a long way from the early days. Instead of ground meat, a brown protein sludge made from powdered blood, milk, and eggs is piped into trays stacked in rooms kept at exactly the same temperature as living tissue. Thousands of flies are then carefully irradiated with precise doses of radiation, creating Cochleomya that act normal but are dead inside. Each week, 100 million flies are loaded into rotating dispersal machines to be released mid-flight in a finely tuned balance of drop rate, speed, and altitude. The flight paths are separated by precisely 1.6 kilometers in a choreographed aerial ballet, creating an invisible wall of sterile flies.
I wonder how much they get paid. Uh, Monster sterile flies. Yeah, only, bro. You're pretty much stopping like crops from dying. Yeah, not crops, wildlife from just dying. Shouldn't get paid a lot more for, I'm saying pretty much being the person delivering the cure, like the ant. No, you know what it's like? These flies are like the anti venom. That's great.
Surveillance teams cover some of the most remote and challenging terrain to check animals for injuries and monitor for any sign of screwworm activity. Unfortunately, right now, the wall is failing and the war against Cochleomya is far from over. Cochleomya strikes back.
Bro, up the rate. Nah, they can't up the radioactiveness. Bro, do what they did with the direwolf. Make genetically enhance it. You know what I'm saying? Make it get steroids.
In 2016, Cochleomya somehow made their way back to the Florida Keys, turning the Paradise Islands into a nightmare. Key deer were suddenly walking around with gaping wounds. Millions of sterile flies were rushed in from Panama, creating a front around the outbreak and beginning the eradication again. Within months, the invasion was at least contained. And in late 2023, the wall in Panama failed and Cochleomya struck back immediately. Like a parasitic firestorm on speed, it spread again all over Panama and Costa Rica, burning through central.
But I thought the whole point was that these bugs were going to be having less kids. From what I understand, they're having more kids. Bro, don't tell me that they just needed a predator to evolve into their final form. Oh my god, that's
America and even reaching Mexico. The worm factory now produces sterile worms at maximum capacity. It's a real biological emergency, and it's not clear when it will be over. One day, we might be able to win the war against this horrible monster. We did so before, and other parasites have been eradicated from much of the world or even entirely. So if you find yourself in Central America and see a low-flying plane overhead, maybe you're witnessing another day in one of humanity's most unusual wars. A war we can never stop fighting and can't afford to lose. Incredible breakthroughs often start with ideas that sound incredibly crazy at first. Seeing solutions where others see dead ends isn't a rare skill only geniuses are born with. It's one you can start building right now in just...
well. Anyway, that will be the end of the video. And final thoughts. Why not give all the bugs steroids? Put some steroids in their food, and you know what I'm saying, make them stronger. But I'm not a scientist. Not sure if that's gonna work. If you're a scientist, let me know. Yep.